Welcome to another Three Girls, One Deck. Are we actually live?
That's what I'm wondering, because I'm not seeing it come through on YouTube, and I'm not seeing anybody watching us.
It says we're live.
Yeah, it does.
But
that's weird.
Yeah, it's not.
It does take a while to show up.
Yeah, we are on a delay. So maybe that's why.
It just showed up on YouTube, but it never showed the countdown.
Okay.
Yeah.
How strange.
Yeah.
Well, here we are.
I promise I did hit.
Oh, you did?
No, you did. It said we were live. It says we've been live for a whole minute.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a dog. I have a dog.
Okay. Well,
here. Start as we mean to go on. It wouldn't be us if it was easy. Hi, Bunny Lady. Thank you for commenting. Now we know we definitely live.
Now we know we're live. Yes.
Okay, so we're doing what are we doing? Oh, decks we barely reach for, right? Mm-hmm. Which I think is, we were talking about this before we went live, and there's a few different iterations of this going around as tags, older ones and newer ones, and I don't think any of us have done this before.
I was meaning to and never got around to it. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I've definitely not done it before, so we thought it would be fun to just do it together and have a chat about decks together. And I think I'm going first.
Yes, you are.
So I'll just jump right in, shall I? So the first deck I'm going to talk about is the Celtic Tarot deck by Julian de Berg, which is an out-of-print deck that I've had for like 20 years. And this was my Celtic phase when I was like baby pagan, and I decided that Celtic paganism was for me because, you know, my parents are from Scotland and I live in England, and it's not exactly my favorite mythology, but hey, why force myself into that hole? And, I rarely ever use this deck. In fact, I think in 20 years I've probably used it like 3 times. I like the artwork. I like the guidebook. The guidebook's got loads of great information, but it's just not my taste. I don't think. It just doesn't read as well for me as I would like. But also, I just don't know what to do with it. Like, I don't know whether it's, you know, one of those decks where you think, I don't want to just get rid of it because it's out of print, and I don't want to just like give it away. And then, and it's been out of print for a very long time. It's not a popular deck. The chances of it ever coming back in print are pretty much non-existent. So I'm like, what happens if I let it go and then I miss it? Haven't touched it for 10 years. 10 years. Is that on my shelf for?
Yeah.
But also there's that nostalgia thing as well. It's like one of the first decks that I bought for myself, and it's like from my baby pagan days. I actually hate that phrase, baby pagan, but yeah. And stuff. So I look at it sometimes when I keep all of my decks on the same bookcase, and every time I go and pick a new one, I look at it and I think, should I get it out? And then something else grabs me, and I end up never using it. But I really genuinely don't know what to do with it, and whether or not to just keep it.
So go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you know, ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, one deck only takes up a few square inches, right? Exactly. You know, at the end of the day, if you have one deck that you just hang on to for purposes of hanging on to it and you never reach for it, like if you had an entire bookshelf of decks like that would be one thing. But one, you know, like it can hang out. Like, no reason why it can't.
And it's out of print, so that's kind of an added incentive for baby.
You know, but that kind of works both ways.
It does,
on the
one
hand, I'm like, it's out of print, so I should keep it. And on the other hand, I'm like, it's out of print, so there might be somebody out there who really desperately wants this deck and will use it, and it's just sat on my shelf, gathering dust.
Yeah, it depends on how selfish you want to be, I guess.
My mood changes on the regular, Julie.
So when you say that it didn't read well for you, do you think it's because of the art style not being your thing?
Yeah, I think so.
Theme or both, or combination of both?
I think it's the art style just doesn't really work for me. I think, like, I mean, a deck's a deck, right? It's at some point, it's an RWS deck. So reading it by rote is
Mhm.
easy
Mhm.
enough, but I don't feel any like inspiration from
Mhm.
it, or it doesn't like, I can't think of the word. It doesn't inspire me in any way. It's just like my readings with it are very, this is the 3 of Cups, and 3 of Cups means celebration with friends, and like it's very like that rather than.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Kathy
looks like
too
you're not
has-
alone.
Yeah, Kathy has also
Yeah.
not really been using it, so or never.
Yeah. Got it on eBay. Never used it once.
It does have that effect. It sells like I've seen a few go on eBay for not like huge amounts of money, but a good amount of money considering I paid less than 20 quid for it and have never used it. But so I could, if I wasn't the most lazy human being on the planet, I could put it on eBay and sell it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, leave the house and go and post it somewhere. Do somewhere. But that all sounds like an awful lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brad! Congratulations!
So exciting.
Oh my goodness.
You
And
must be tired.
you must be, and yet you're hanging out with here with us. So thank you. That's so freaking amazing. Oh,
it's the Celtic Tarot by Julian de Berg. And no, you're right. I'm not. I am lazy. I'm like, I'll just show you the comment that I'm applying to. But I am like, I know I do a lot of stuff, but it's all stuff that I can do on my arse in my house. It's not like going out stuff. It's doing in the house with involving books and my laptop type stuff that I tend to do.
I agree with Crazy Bunny Lady. Reselling decks can be a bit of a pain in the ass.
It is
like,
a pain.
The thought of like having to do that, I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah.
I'd rather just either donate it or keep it. You know, sometimes it's that like much of annoyance.
Yeah, and I mean the last time I did like a deck unhaul, which wasn't even an unhaul really, it was just like a handful of decks. It's because I was going somewhere with people that I knew were into tarot, and I just chucked them in a bag and took them with me, and just people just took what they wanted.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So I find it much better doing it that way. Or, you know, a friend who says, "Oh, I'm really into tarot," and I'm like, "Oh, I have just the deck for you."
Yeah.
And I don't have to.
Exactly. I resell decks all the time, but I also like run a tiny business out of my home, so I have a shipping label printer and can get a pickup from the USPS if I have lots of packages to go out the door. And like, it's just I'm like equipped for it, so I do it all the time. If you're not equipped for it, it's a huge pain. So
so cool.
But it's the kind of thing where if it was going for a reasonable amount on eBay, I mean, even if it's not a popular deck and not in demand, you know, I don't know. Maybe I'm just like very greedy capitalist, but I would be like, let's sell and get some money.
I mean, if anybody watching this either in the live or in the replay or whatever is like, I really want that deck and I'm struggling to get hold of it, like hit me up and we can probably arrange something, because I'm fairly easygoing about
that. Boom.
Like that. Like,
nice. Very nice.
But if I have to take a picture of it and put it on eBay, do you still have to take photos of stuff when you put them on eBay?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to do that. I'm probably not going to do that. But it's an excellent condition because it's never used. It's been used for years. So, anyway, that's enough of me trying to sell that one deck.
It has what one would call shelfware and no other wear.
I think, should we move on to Sarah before I get carried away and start auctioning it now?
All right.
Last
turn.
All right. So my first one, and this one makes me so sad to talk about because the reason why I don't reach for it is genuinely sad. So the one that I'm going to talk about is the Lort de Taroki. I love this deck. I love it, love it, love it. I adore it. I adore the artwork. I adore the shape of it. I adore everything about it. It's so cute. It's like a pip deck that is modern artwork that's been made to look old. It's extremely quirky, and I love the fact that it's sort of, see, now I just dropped all my cards on the ground. I love the fact that it's got this sort of like tall, skinny shape. I absolutely adore this deck. The thing about this deck is that for anybody who's ever used it before, it is made of this like very papery, cardboardy, uncoated cardstock.
Mm.
And the last time I used this deck, I bent one of the cards.
Yeah.
And I almost cried.
I understand.
Almost cried. Like I was so upset. And because you can't riffle shuffle this deck. You can only overhand shuffle it. And I am a terrible, really unskilled overhand shuffler. And I bent a card. And like ever since then, I just like don't want to touch it because I'm like, I'm gonna destroy this adorable deck that I love so much if I try to shuffle it anymore. And so at this point, I haven't reached for it for like ages. I think it was sometime last year that I bent the card. And
wow, okay.
Yeah.
So, was it really bad?
It's a crease for sure. Like I tried to look for the card. I didn't get it through the entire deck. So it's in here somewhere, but it's, the way that this is like cardboardy.
Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's like a crease, like it's a legit crease. And so it broke my heart. I'm like still not over it to this day. And so it's just wildly depressing. But also that means that like, even if I did want to sell this deck, I'm never going to, obviously, because it's damaged. So it's just gonna stay on my shelf depressing me.
So, I mean, you could use other, you could use the swishy method, maybe like, or dice. You could use dice.
Yeah, I could use dice.
You could use a pendulum to pick cards.
You could use a pendulum. I mean, there are
other ways.
I mean, because that bookmark shape makes it so hard to just any kind of shuffling. I feel like even overhand, which is how you, I guess, bent it, right? But like, I feel like even with more skilled overhand shufflers would have a hard time with that shape. And given the cardstock is not really meant to be shuffleable cardstock, it sounds like.
Right. Yeah, it is not easy. So I adore this deck, and I am still bummed about it. And that is my tale of woe and tragedy. And around one of the decks that I never beat.
And I've coveted that deck, and I did resist just for some factors, but I mean, this is for the creator's intention. It is a deck that's meant to be used and not just kind of a collectible. It's meant to be used. Okay.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, any of these Il Meneghello decks, like they're art pieces, obviously, but they are also meant to be used as decks, and so it is just a wonderful little deck, but yeah, I'm so afraid of damaging it now that I just
don't use it.
I like pick it up and I'm like afraid to. Anyway.
Yeah.
When I say that I almost cried, it's probably what I actually mean by that is that I did cry a little bit.
You did cry a little bit, yeah.
I do. I understand. That is not a cheap deck, and it's
no.
Yeah,
and it's so adorable, and it's just so wonderful and charming and cute and interesting, and it's one of those decks where I loved it so much, and there's just anyway.
And you wouldn't get like another copy.
Well, I mean, again, like this one has been in and out of print, and I'm not sure what the status of it is right now. So yeah, and this is interesting too, because it's the same thing with the Texture Tarot, actually. The Texture Tarot is also one of the only decks that I've ever damaged shuffling it. And I have creased a couple of cards in the Texture Tarot too, but I have a backup copy of the Texture Tarot because that deck is like a workhorse for me. And there's like, I am never gonna not try to keep another copy of that deck on hold in case I ever damage it to the point that it's not usable anymore. But this one, I just have one, and it's very expensive.
I get it. I totally get it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, there are other ways. Like Heather and I said, there are other ways if you truly, truly want to use it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. And I should experiment with it with some other ways of using it.
Have you tried that with any other decks, or would that be the first time that you've used another way, and that's maybe why you're a bit like
I think that also, like, shuffling for me is I have a very specific routine, and I know that I shouldn't necessarily imbue that routine with some kind of like magical power, because like deep down, I don't believe that it necessarily has any magical power, but I'm very specific about the way that I shuffle and how it feels when I know that I should stop shuffling and like all that stuff. So when I get the idea of like using another way to pick cards, I'm like, but is that going to work?
I mean, yeah,
it's fair.
Pet pendulum or something like that. Would you get the Sarah tingle? Like the Sarah tingle might not come.
Yeah, exactly.
I should try it and see how it goes. Because
I mean, and whether or not we're even like, whether it's some kind of magical thing that's happening or whether it's psychosomatic, doesn't really make any difference in terms of the outcome.
Right.
So, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And and maybe with that particular deck, that could be its own unique, routine and system and ritual of working with it. So
that's true.
You can kind of forge a different feeling altogether that is unique to that deck. And
now I'm like all inspired, you guys. Thank you. Actually, now I'm like excited. I like want to go try this now.
We'll have to report back.
Yeah, I will, and I'll report back.
Yeah, you'll have to let us know how you go on.
Yeah,
it could be interesting. So yeah,
cool.
Anyway, so Julie's turn.
Okay, which one do I want to talk about? So this deck that I barely reach for, I've had a history with this deck. You two have as well. It is the Shadowscapes.
Oh, yeah.
The Shadowscapes.
The Shadowscapes. Yeah. This is the Czech version that I actually received as a gift. I did have the English language version, which I rehomed because I was having a hard time seeing all the details. And yeah, so I was very happy to receive the Czech version because it is larger. So it does make the details easier to see, in my opinion. And also, like, this cardstock seems to be a little more like glossy than I think the English language, which makes me feel like it kind of saturates the colors more to make that all the more helpful to see what you're looking at. And I was looking back in my journal to see, when did I last use this? And it was February of 2023 is when I last used this. And it was for a lunar spread. And the reading was great. And it's beautiful artwork. It's beautiful. I don't know. I think.
Do you have the card info written on there somewhere?
I do. Yeah.
Oh, you do. Okay, I couldn't see it.
Do you see it?
Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, no, I see it. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I used different colored markers because they're like metallic markers, so that they're not too like glaring, but just for me. Yeah. So I have a feeling what's going on here is that while the artwork is absolutely beautiful, I don't feel like it necessarily, kind of like what Heather was saying with the Celtic Tarot, it doesn't necessarily evoke any kind of strong emotion for me. Like when I pull out the deck, it's not like I'm giddy to work with it because it's so freaking cute, or that it feels nostalgic. I mean, it's nostalgic of very much like kind of fantasy books that I would read. It does remind me of that kind of genre. But it just doesn't elicit that strong of reaction. It's a very kind of neutral reaction, which is not a bad thing. But then when it comes to looking at my deck library full of all these other decks, where it's just like, oh my God, chroi tarot, that's so cute, or like, or another fantasy deck, like for instance, Terre de la Nuit, which just delights me in all its campy ways. Like then this just this gets neglected.
Yeah.
So it's not to say that I don't want to try to work with this deck in the future, like all these decks really, with maybe the exception of one. But like, I don't know. I just don't reach for it. And it's beautiful. And also a part of me wonders if, you know, this is the type of artwork that really just lends to being on my wall as opposed to being used as a tarot deck. I don't know. I mean, it reads fine. I've had absolutely fantastic readings with it, you know, from the sense that it does work as a tarot deck, but I think it's really that just, you know, it doesn't really elicit, it doesn't like blow my hair back in any type of strongly reactive way, I guess, has been my problem with this. Yeah, that's true. Yes.
Yeah,
I agree. Actually, this is one deck that I did get rid of, and now I want it back. But I want it back because it's pretty, and and every time people show it, I'm like, oh, I miss that deck. But it was the same when I was reading with it. It was fine. It was a very nice deck to read with, but it wasn't special. Special in any way.
And I think that ultimately, if I don't ever read with this deck again, it might just still stay in my collection, you know, as a gift. And it's just so beautiful to look at. And I can see it being something where, because this is what I've been doing lately, where I have one deck out that I'm using to do my daily pulls. And then I'll have another deck where I just pull that same card that I received from that one pull, just to look at the art and to kind of compare the two. So I can see myself maybe doing something like that, you know, where it's maybe not necessarily part of any type of reading, but to get a kind of like a visual comparison. And it's just a nice excuse to look at the images and appreciate them. You know, we'll see. Who knows? Maybe one day I will be inspired to read with it more. So
what is the new tarot project?
Yeah, I want to know what the new project is too.
What's that? Oh,
I think I even follow her on.
I mean, I know she has an oracle deck out, right? It's an indie oracle deck.
Oh,
I don't know.
I thought
apparently there's previews on her Instagram. We'll have to go check.
I thought I followed her on Instagram, but also I don't use Instagram very often. That's probably how I missed it. But
she did have an oracle deck, and maybe that was with Angie Sullen or something. Angie. Oh, I might be misremembering. Anyway, I thought she had an oracle deck, but I could be wrong.
I'll have to look it up because I love her artwork so much. I mean, it's just amazing artwork. So
and that's the thing. It's like maybe I just need like a coffee table book full of her, you know, her art or something. But we'll see.
Exactly. Yeah, these are
all Paulina Cassidy. These 3 decks, right?
Yeah. I had the same problem with Paulina Cassidy decks. It was like. I love the artwork so much, but when I looked at because I think I had the Paulina Tarot. But anytime I would look at a card, it was like the art style was so the same across all of the cards, even that I would have a difficult time initially figuring out like what card I was looking at. It was like there was nothing distinctive about the artwork for a particular card that necessarily made it jump out at me what card it was in a way. Like, I don't know, I'm not explaining myself very well, but I can see kind of having that same issue with the Shadowscapes. So
I have 2 of those decks and I like them both very much, the Joy de Vivre and the Spirit Song, but the Spirit Song especially is very muted and very you have to really be looking at what card is what.
Yeah, I wish you
were. Oh yeah, another comparison to Paulina Cassidy.
Yeah.
So totally get that.
Crazy Bunny Lady is saying,
sorry.
I just see, this is what I was wondering, if she had a deck out, so it might be I feel like it was paired with Angie Sullen or something like that, who wrote the guidebook, and then she was the illustrator, but we'll have to look this up later. But I do feel like she does have at least one other. Okay, the new one is called
I kind of is it cruel of me that I'm kind of like that we made Logan so unsure of himself that he went into it.
No, I just appreciate you looking up, Logan. Thank you,
Logan.
Now I need to go check this out.
Now I need to check this out. I'm crazy.
Yeah, I am very curious.
And check it out for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
the
just
Oracle.
her artwork is so
Wow.
amazing. So
Yeah, I love her artwork. But again, her artwork, I think I'm kind of at that point where I'm like, is it tarot artwork or do I just want to cover my walls in it?
Exactly. So yeah, TBD.
Tree Keeper's Oracle.
Tree Keeper's Oracle.
That's what it is.
That's
what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, not good, but I mean, glad it wasn't.
Oh, okay, yeah, and I like the name Verdance, like that. That kind of implies maybe a little bit more of an earthy kind of feel to it. So now I'm very, very excited to sort of see what that one looks like. So that's very cool. Yeah.
I mean, the question is like, how is it also going to be very super detailed? And then if it's a tarot, like what's the size of the deck? Because it would just be a repeat of kind of the same issues with the Shadowscape. I mean, unless like the saturation's been really like pumped up with a lot of contrast, or she's toned down with like the level of detail. But I'm interested in looking at that. I'll have to take a look later. So thank you, Logan.
Awesome.
Oh, okay. So Amber is saying that does have deeper colors in it. So that helps. Definitely. Yes. Angie Sullins, art by Stephanie.
Yeah. That's Tree Keeper's Oracle, right?
Yeah.
Tree Keeper's Oracle. I'm going to have to take a look at that too, actually. Cool.
All right. Cool. Heather's turn.
Back to me, I think. Yeah. So the next one I have came in a really cool bag, is the Coffee Tarot. Which I watched this when it was being created and then didn't get it. And then me and the creator, Janet Boyer, were in the same Facebook group for something completely un-tarot related. Got talking about it and she sent me a copy of the deck. And I mean, it's huge. The cards are huge. And I love this deck, but it is in order because whenever I use it, I then have to spend 20 minutes putting it back in order because I'm not entirely sure without looking it up
which card is which.
For the majors, the minors are fine because they're all like Ace of Fire, 1 of Fire, 2 of Fire. But the majors, like this is the
High Priestess?
High Priestess.
Yeah. And this is the Empress. And so I'm like, yeah. So some of them are really obvious, and some of them are
the Emperor.
Just what they are.
Just called the Emperor. Okay.
Yeah. And tradition, that's like, okay, that's the Hierophant, that makes sense. And then some of them I've just got no clue. I've got no clue. And I'm like, I have to, when I'm looking at them, when I read them, I'm like, wait, what was that again? So I just really, all I need to do to use this deck more is find a way to mark the cards so that it's really obvious to me which is which without a struggle. And it doesn't come with a guidebook. I think she sent me a PDF, but I can't find it because I've obviously filed it somewhere really super safe. But I'll show you some of the minors as well on this one. I mean, I love coffee. I loved watching this deck when they were posting like pictures of it on their Instagram and watching it all come to life and everything. I really like the art style of this deck, even though some of the choices are a bit strange, like the 3 of Fire, the Pirate having tea, which like there's something about the like overly quirky weirdness of that really appeals to me.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah.
And I love it. I love to look at it, and the minors are great, but the minute I have to use the majors, it just takes my brain so long to figure out which one I'm looking at that I kind of shut down a little bit. And it is really fixable. It is really just as simple as
putting a number on each one,
putting a number on them or something. Yeah, but I just haven't got around to it. And and I like the courts are all cups. So every single court is just a cup, and then the background is the element. It's such a cool deck. Well, look, the three bears.
Okay.
Aww.
Like it's so random. Every card is random. There's no other than the fact that there's some kind of coffee in every single card. There's no overriding theme. You've got aliens, you've got like a genie, a woman and a genie, because of course you have. Why wouldn't you?
Right. The theme is everyone loves coffee.
Yeah. You've got I'm assuming that's a groundhog having a cup of coffee in the morning before he does his Groundhog Day stuff. Whatever they do, I don't know. It's just so quirky that I love it. Yeah. I really love it. But it's really hard to shuffle. I love this card too.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Is that a reference to
Office Space?
Oh, it is. Okay. I thought it was maybe just losing my mind. Okay, it is.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah. A random robot doing some stuff. I think the only robot in the entire deck. I don't know.
That's pretty delightful, actually.
Yeah, very quirky.
I actually kind of enjoy that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really, really great deck. It's so much fun, and it is everybody's drinking coffee. Aliens are drinking coffee. Mm-hmm. Random people are drinking coffee.
Yes.
Bears are drinking coffee. Groundhogs are drinking coffee. Everybody stopped for a cup of coffee, which I like. Coffee is my drink of choice. I drink so much coffee. I had to go on to decaf. But it's just so hard. It's just so hard to work with the majors.
Understandable. I can see that,
yeah. You just got to stick some numbers on those.
Yeah, I know. Down by the side of the sofa is my crafting box, and that right on top are my Sharpies, and it is literally just as easy as leaning down and getting one and writing on. And every time I get the deck out, I think, I should really do that. And then I put it all back in order, and then I put it away, and then I forget about it until next time. So, but yeah, I like it a lot. I do. Such a weird little deck. I love it.
It's very cute, I have to say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So that's me. So we're back to Sarah, I think.
Okay. I'll put myself in the middle. All right. So the next one is a deck that I literally only own for the artwork. And not because I ever have even thought there was a major possibility of me ever working with it, but I'm sort of getting to the point that I feel like maybe it is time for me to consider letting it go. And that is the Mysteries of Mary Tarot. I have no connection to Mary. I have nothing about this has any kind of like spiritually speaking, there isn't a reason for me to own this deck, aside from the fact that I just love the artwork so much. The creator made all of these little shrines, little vignettes, full of little random objects, and every single one of the cards is like that. And this to me is such cool artwork. This must have taken so much effort, and I love little miniatures and dioramas and displays and things like that. And so the artwork of this is just the coolest thing in the world to me. But I've never used it. You can see I'm holding up cards. They're still in order because I've never even shuffled it. All I do is look at it. So I am sort of at the point where I'm there's probably somebody out there who would actually really love to have this and use this, because the creator of this deck is from South Africa, and it sort of goes in and out of print, and it's very expensive and hard to get your hands on when it is in print. And so I'm sort of maybe this is just something that I should just finally take one last look through all the cards and think about how cool they are, and then let it go. Because it's so cool and beautiful. And the creator I know has a couple of other decks. She has Mysteries of the Black Madonna and Mysteries of the Red Madonna, I think. There's a couple of other ones sort of in this series, and again with the same kind of art style. And honestly, I think the artwork is just the coolest, but there's no chance that I'm ever going to really reach for this, really. I mean, I just, like I said, from a spiritual standpoint, I have no connection. So
is there a guidebook that comes with that? And I'm assuming it is because of the nature of the theme. It's a spiritually based. Okay. So that's why you just never felt the call to even try to use it for anything. Okay.
No, there's a guidebook. I could read the guidebook. I could, but again, like I just I was not raised Christian. I do not have a connection to Mary as a religious or spiritual figure. Like it just doesn't, so I see, some of the suggestions of like using it like an oracle, using it in ritual. And I'd never do that because like, this doesn't mean anything to me spiritually. Like this isn't what I connect to on a spiritual level. I just think the artwork is so cool. Like that's literally it. It's literally the artwork. And that is why it hangs out on my shelf. And I'm sort of like, I really should sell this to somebody who could really make good use of it and really would feel that level of spiritual connection to it, and like, because like I said, this is a very difficult deck to get a hold of a lot of the time. And to buy it from South Africa is quite expensive. And it was expensive when I bought it, but I just couldn't like resist it because I just thought the artwork was so amazing. So anyway, so yeah.
Do you think it's kind of like the same thing where it's like the fact that it's hard to get hold of makes you reticent to get rid of it, but is also the reason why you think maybe I should pass it on?
Exactly. That is exactly the issue because it's like I know that if I pass it on, like I'll probably never have it again. And see, we literally have people in the in like chat being like, I'll email you, I'd give my right arm for this deck. Like, so, so you can kind of see where that
maybe really, not my right arm, I'm right-handed.
I'm not. There are definitely reasons why I kind of feel like I should stop hoarding it and let it out into the world to somebody who really wants it. So so I do think that I'm probably going to end up letting this one go. Again, I'll take one last look through it and appreciate the artwork and then just say goodbye to it because there's no good reason for me to have it. So other than I just think it's pretty. So yeah. Anyway, so that's the Mysteries of Mary. And it comes with all kinds of cool stuff. It comes with like a guidebook and a little icon of Mary and like a rosary. It came with a rosary, like all this stuff. But again, I'm like, when am I going to use a rosary? Like, what am I going to do with all that? Like, I got nothing to do with that.
Rosaries are good for meditation and mindfulness if that's a thing that you're interested in outside of.
Kind of like mala beads, yeah.
I have actually mala beads.
Yeah.
That I do use. So the rosary is sort of superfluous to what I already have in that area.
Fair enough.
So yeah. Anyway, yeah, but see, there are people telling me to keep it too. Yes, I don't know. I just don't see myself ever working with it because I don't have that connection. So
fair enough.
Yeah. Anyway, Julie's turn.
Okay. So this next deck that I really have never reached for since the last time I used it is the Literary Tarot.
I have this one too. This is one of my
5. So FYI, in case you didn't know, we actually did a 3-girl special dedicated to our thoughts on the Literary Tarot. So you can check that out. It's on our playlist. And so you can get the full expanse of our thoughts on this deck. But, Too Long Didn't Read. Sarah loves it and uses it. And, for my part, I can appreciate it. It doesn't really blow my hair back. And I think that it's beautiful. I love that, profits go toward a good cause. Although I did not buy this, it was gifted to me. But
at some point, profits went toward a good cause.
I mean, it's really production-wise, it's beautiful deck. I think the artwork, like I said, just well done. Given the fact that it's maybe 4 artists, I think, a few artists, it's cohesive. But it's a deck that also, given that I am, was an English major and I used to teach English and literature, you would think this would be up my street. And in some ways it is, and that is very nostalgic to that time in my life. And so when this came out as a Kickstarter campaign, I was close to getting it, but I knew for me, I knew that themed decks like this, where the images are based on, you know, a specific story or specific like plot sequence, or, you know, something like that tends to limit me in terms of how then I read that card. So I find it less expansive, and so I really have to be careful. I mean, it's not all the time, but I'm finding a lot of times that's my problem. So I opted not to get it, but then it was gifted to me. And just given like all the talk around it, I was curious about it. Like when it finally came out and was done and it came out, like people had so many different things to say. And so I was curious about it. So yeah, there are literary references I'm unfamiliar with. And then for, you know, several of the cards, if I'm unfamiliar with that reference, I still don't get enough of the image to read it as, say, you know, a straight RWS. So there's that added kind of complication. It's something where it'd be a deck that I'd have to work on. You know, it's work. You know, to familiarize myself with the stories, because we talked about this in that special. The guidebook, the companion guidebook, is not helpful in that respect.
Yeah.
So ultimately, but see this one's a great card, the yellow wallpaper. Oh my God. So there are a lot of great things about this deck, but ultimately as a whole overall, it would just be too much work and too many factors that kind of hinder me from wanting to work with it. Like, oh, and the two suits, the suit of ink and the suit of light, maybe, which I feel like should be switched. And so that always F's with my mind. Like, so all those things added together, it's just not one that I have ever felt called to use. I mean, in my head, I would tell myself, well, maybe one day you can use this as an excuse to start reading some of these stories that you're unfamiliar with. And no,
that's not going to happen.
No, like, shut the fuck up, Julie. You know you're not going to do that. You know it's not going to happen. Like,
are you kidding?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, this is one that I never reach for. Yeah, and I don't know if it will stay in my, like, for now, because I do enjoy the art, and, you know, it was a gift. I still have it and appreciate it. And we shall see, you know, we shall see. But
I do think that they really did that deck a huge disservice with the guidebook. Like, you need to recognize, if you're going to make a deck like that, that not everyone will have read all 78 works of classic literature that your deck is based on, and like put a freaking summary in the guidebook, like just like a 2-paragraph summary of whatever that work is. Explain enough about the plot that somebody can make the connection to the card. And like they gave each of the cards like a sentence maybe of explanation along those lines, and it just wasn't enough. Unless you literally have read the vast majority of those works, it's not enough. So
I really do think that when they set up that campaign, their aim was to target readers, not tarot readers. And that's because the deck I think the guidebook is quite useful in terms of the meanings of the cards, but I do think it was put together on the assumption that the people who were buying it would be people who were interested in the stories more so than the tarot.
Yeah,
and they already know them.
Gimmick. I think also one thing that could have helped is that if they're not going to give you a synopsis of the freaking stories, then at least illustrate the cards in such a way that you don't necessarily need to rely on the stories, that you can still get the RWS flavor, which a lot of these cards do. A lot of these cards do that perfectly well. They were successful with that, but then others, they chose to be very niched in the way they illustrated that particular card. And it was just kind of like, and some of these stories would also not even be that well known. You know, they're more like stories that I feel like aren't as popular or well known. And then on top of that, you're going to make this very like specific image that doesn't really reference kind of the RWS kind of imagery that more people are familiar with, like that makes it harder for me then to work with it, because I could have seen myself working with it, just be like, oh, screw the stories. Let me just work with the beautiful art. And that would be fine. But it didn't happen that way. So
and yes, it does at least name the stories in the guidebook.
Thank goodness. Yeah.
But it's like when I was going through it, like for the works that I wasn't familiar with, there were literally, and luckily there weren't all that many, but there was a process of actually like going through and figuring out what that was and making notes, because there were a few where I was like, I have never even heard of this story.
Exactly.
I've never heard of this, you know. And it like wasn't a ton, but it was enough that it was like, okay, I've got to like go actually track down this short story and figure out what the heck it's about, you know. So you know, a lot of the stuff in it is very, very well known. The vast majority of it is, but there were a few things where I was just like, dude, like I don't even know what you're trying to get out of here. So like,
it's work. It's a deck that, you know, lists a lot of work. If you're I was unfamiliar with several of these stories. So by having to look each story up every time to understand why they paired this particular, you know, character or story with this particular like RWS archetype, like that's just more work than I want to do for this deck. So that's another deck that I never reach for, and I honestly doubt I ever will for you know, tarot reading. I mean, I might reach for it to just flip through it and enjoy it for the art that it is. And that would probably be all she wrote.
All right. So Heather's turn, right?
Oh, that's me. Yeah, I've forgotten what order we were going in. Yeah. So the next one I have is like, just point out my lovely bag, which you can buy from Bow Tarot.
Love that.
Just put now there. And it's a very apt bag. It's a very apt bag when you see the deck. It is actually the Alice Tarot by Bower Studio is my next one. I at this point, I don't think it's a secret that I'm a little bit of an Alice in Wonderland fan. Just a small.
In case you can't see Heather's literal tattoo on her arm.
Which takes up the whole of the bottom of my arm. All right. And I coveted this deck for so long. And then it came out and it was more money at the time than I'd ever spent on a deck in my entire life. And I love it. Partly I don't reach for it because I never want to spend that much money on a deck again. It's out of print. I don't know if it'll ever come back into print. I just adore it so much that I'm like, if anything happens to it, I will be like Sarah, where I'll probably cry. So it is in that respect. I'm too frightened to do anything with it. But also I have other Alice decks. I have the Tarot in Wonderland, the Llewellyn one, and I have the Dame Darcy one. And the Tarot in Wonderland, the mass market Llewellyn Tarot in Wonderland, I think is just a much better combination of Alice and tarot for me personally, who knows the story fairly well, than this one is. And I just think it's that one is just, in terms of readability, is just a better deck. And also it's mass market. So if that one gets ripped or broken, or I lose a card, or the dog eats one, which has happened in the past, not for that, but then it's easily replaceable. But this deck is stunning, is absolutely stunning. I would never even cross my mind to pass this deck on, or you know, it's always going to be one that I keep. But I don't use it for those combination of reasons. It's not the easiest to read with, and it's a little bit scary to just in case, because I'm pretty heavy-handed with my decks as well. As a general rule, I treat my decks like I treat books and everything. Like I'm a spine breaker, I'm a dog eater when it comes to books. You know, I like my stuff to be lived in.
well loved,
and
you know.
used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So Marlena is asking, did you hear that the Pooh Tarot creators are working on an Alice deck?
I did not. No.
Oh, that's cool.
Are you one that needs to have every Alice deck?
No, I don't think so. No, I do. I mean, I don't know. I am a bit obsessive. I have like 3 different versions of the book, so why wouldn't I have like 5 different versions of the deck?
I mean, it's cool. You know, if it comes out and it looks like, you know, you watch a walkthrough and it looks like it's a cool deck. I mean, you know,
yeah,
maybe
why not? Yeah, I would never say never. I would never, you know, I've got 3. I don't need any more. Like, I don't need any. I didn't buy them because I needed them. I bought them because I wanted them. No. So yeah, I can't guarantee that I won't buy it, but I haven't seen it. I'd have to see it. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very pretty deck.
It is a lovely deck. It is, and it feels nice. It actually really shuffles well as well. Their cardstock is lovely.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Baba Studios cardstock is so good. So good. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we have a question here. Hi, Robin, Toadstool Tarot. Do any of you consider scarcity, expense, irreplaceability of a deck prior to buying one in terms of whether or not that might keep you from using it? Yes, we did. Mentioned this previously, that it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Of wanting to, sorry, my brain just did a space out thing here. Knowing that maybe something's out of print, or that we spent as much that we did, that we are tempted to hold on to it for that very fact. And yes, the whole like, yes, the idea of scarcity. But then at the same token, what if there's somebody out there who really could use that deck?
And in terms of prior to buying it,
prior to.
Yeah, I think there have been decks that are, you know, more expensive or whatever, that I like and haven't bought for exactly that reason, because I know that because of the expense and because they're limited edition and stuff, I probably won't use them. And only in very, very, very rare occasions, because I'm Scottish and we're tight, am I willing to spend money on something, a lot of money on something that is just going to sit on my shelf and never get used. That's just not my personal style of doing things. I don't judge other people who do that. I think people should spend their money however they want. But I'm really tight with my money. So if a deck's really expensive and I know I'm probably not going to use it all that much, that would stop me from buying it.
I guess for me, excuse me, the expense of how much a deck cost and you know, the scarcity of it has never deterred me from actually using it. Like, I use all my Baba Studios decks, you know, like most of them are out of print, but I still use them. It's only in cases like this where I literally like accidentally damaged the deck, and then that made me like hyper aware of how irreplaceable it is, that I'm like, oh my God, I need to stop using this. But typically that's not a concern for me. Like, I use decks even if I spent a lot of money on them, you know, like I always used my Tildwick even when that was like wildly out of print, you know, like, so I guess it doesn't necessarily deter me from using it, but I also don't generally damage my, you know, I use my decks and I manage to not damage them the vast majority of the time, with, again, rare exceptions, heartbreaking exceptions. You know, so it doesn't, I don't think it really deters me necessarily, but yeah, I mean, I can definitely see how, obviously, if I knew a deck was just going to sit on the shelf, I wouldn't buy it. But with, again, rare exceptions. Although I did intend to use this at one point, I bought it and was like, oh, I'll go get into this, you know, no. But you know, generally speaking, I don't generally buy decks with the intention of not using them, even if they are really, really expensive. So
I'm the same way. Any deck that I buy, no matter how much it costs, like, I do intend to use it. And, you know, like you, Sarah, I try to be careful as to not damage. Sometimes I have found myself kind of unconsciously knowing that something's gone out of print, then not using as much for fear that, you know, that has definitely cropped up for me before. But prior to, like, yeah, there's never been the idea that, well, I'm going to buy this deck, but I'm never going to use it because it is, yeah, it's now out of print, or there's, it's like low quantity out there. Yeah, I don't think that's ever been really much of an issue.
I think this is also something that we probably have different views on as well, because I know you guys both own backup copies of decks, and I don't.
Yeah.
Like, it's a conversation that comes up in book circles as well, with different versions of books and stuff. But I would rather spend money on 2 separate decks than spend money on 2 the same. I personally, other than very, very, very rare exceptions, I wouldn't buy a second copy of a deck if I still had a copy of that deck and it was still usable.
I feel like I don't, I'm not opposed to it. And I would say the copies that I have are just kind of incidental. That, like, for instance, my Everyday Witch, my first copy, my edging job was just egregious. And so I bought the second copy thinking that I would, you know, replace that first copy. But then I just kept using my first copy and actually loved the way it started to look, you know, all sloppy used. And then so I just kind of incidentally have that backup copy. I have a backup copy of the Bangtan Tarot, our tarot.
Yeah, that's the one I have. Yeah.
And then another one is the traditional Korean tarot, which the backup was gifted to me. And that was like one of those situations where it's like, I didn't have any problems using the deck until I found out, oh yeah, well, 1, you can only get it from South Korea. Oh, 2, now it's out of print. So then I found myself that I wasn't using it as much. And then, you know, lovely person sent me a backup copy. But I don't know that I've ever, I'm trying to think, just in terms of having a backup copy, I'm not sure that I have any other instances where I do. Yeah.
I do. I mean, like, my most precious deck, my most beloved deck is my Touchstone Tarot, which the Kunadi edition is the edition that I like, and that edition is out of print. And once I found out that that deck went out of print, if I saw a reasonably priced copy of the edition that I liked, I would just buy it. Like, I just snap it up. So I have 2 backup copies of that deck in addition to my very, very, very worn main copy. I would never start to use the backup copies unless I genuinely had like a massive accident of some kind happen to my other copies. But I do, and I have a backup texture tarot again, because that's one that I have damaged before, and I know, and it's a workhorse for me, and I use that to read for other people a lot. So I do have a backup of that one. Have, you know, there are some other decks where like the Tildwick, for example, I don't have a backup, but I have 2 editions of it. I have the second and third editions of it. I think it's the second, or is it the first and second? I can't remember, but I have 2 editions of it. So in that way, I suppose I sort of have a backup of it. But yeah, I mean, if there's a deck that is genuinely precious to me, then sure, I'll have a backup of it. I have no issue with that. But yeah, the Touchstone is the one that I'm like really egregious about. Like, it's absurd that I have backup copies of that deck, but it literally, it was like, this is my favorite deck, it's gone out of print, if I see it somewhere, I'm gonna buy it. And so that's what I did. So that's how I ended up with a couple extras. So
yeah. For me, like, the Delos Tarot is one that I considered getting another copy. And that's more of like, not necessarily, well, I guess kind of a backup, but like just a different edition, where the Delos Tarot out now is like glossier. And I think, Sarah, you said it was actually even a little smaller maybe than the previous edition.
It's a little smaller, it's glossier, and in my opinion, it's more flexible.
And it's more flexible. So I'm just like, ooh, that's tempting. Super tempting. I haven't yet, but
then I suppose, but then there's also an argument to be made that, not that you need to make an argument, because again, you can do what you like, people. There are no tarot police. But there is an argument there that you're not buying backup copies, you're buying different editions, which is a different thing. Like, I haven't done it with tarot decks, but I have, like, going back to Alice in Wonderland, I have different versions of that same book, and I will continue as I see, like, there's the a version of that book. I think it might be a Wordsworth classic or something. I don't know, that I love the look of it and I want a copy of it. I already own that book 3 times. I don't need another one.
Yeah.
But it's about the different editions in that case of something that you love.
Yeah, that's true. I have like 4 different copies of Anne of Green Gables. I have like an annotated one. I have one from the early 1900s that belonged to my grandma. I have a Puffin and Bloom edition that my friend gave me. Just multiple different, but again, they're all different. So yeah,
exactly.
And it's my favorite book. So I do find this question interesting about refraining from riffle shuffling rare decks, because riffle shuffling is how I don't do damage to decks. The decks that I damage are the ones that I can't riffle shuffle, and that's how I end up damaging them. If I riffle shuffle a deck, it's not going to get damaged because I'm good at riffle shuffling, but I suck at overhand shuffling, so that's how my decks get damaged. So yeah.
And in answer to this one, it's very kind of you to assume that I actually have any rare decks to concern myself with. I do not.
Well, the Alice one, I mean, the Alice is up there.
Yeah, I mean, although apparently somebody said it's, I can't remember who it was.
Oh, is it coming back? That's right.
It's Maria was saying they're reprinting it next year, so it's not like.
True.
And I think they might even, no, they haven't. Mine was the last print, and they did of it, I think. But but also I don't use that one, so it's not an issue.
The funny thing about Baba Studio is that they keep saying like, oh, we're going to get out of the tarot printing business. We're not going to make tarot decks anymore. And yet their decks like still keep coming back into
exactly.
Yeah.
When is this going to stop?
How many times have you said you're leaving and you're not doing this?
Yeah, see, it's a very clever marketing tool.
It's like it is. It's creating that
scarcity. It's a very clever marketing tool. This is the last time you're ever going to be able to buy this deck until the next time we print it. That is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did we have a retirement party for you too early? Like twice before? Okay.
Cool. Okay, so Sarah.
Yes. All right. So this one, I love this deck, and I don't reach for it very often. This is the Felis Arcana, which is the cat tarot. This is by Taylor Hultquist Todd, who is the same person who she's done a couple of other different decks. She has like a dog tarot. She has a ocean tarot. She has like a folklore tarot, but she has this cat deck. And I love this deck. Like this is like the only cat deck that I've ever truly loved. I love it's all these black and white, like really detailed pencil illustrations. The cats are like it's cat behavior, but they're all wearing costumes, which I don't know. They don't look like not cats, but they also are still kind of like dressed up and like sort of in the Rider-Waite-Smith kind of setting in all the cards. And it's just, honestly, it's just a really, really cute deck. And I love it. I love the art style. I think that this, I mean, it's definitely my favorite cat deck that I've ever seen anywhere. And yet I don't reach for it very often. And I don't know why. It's like, do you ever have the feeling that like a deck is like too specific in terms of its theme, where it's sort of like, okay, like I feel like I would reach for the cat tarot to ask questions about my cats. But I don't feel like I would reach for it to ask questions about like my career, or like my love life or something like that. Like, it's almost that it feels too specific. Set of questions. So even though I love it, it's the theme of it just sort of like means that I never feel the urge to kind of reach for it. But it's the cutest thing ever. Like it
really is.
It really is a nice deck. What is it called again? Sorry, I was opening my curtains.
It's called the Felis Arcana or the Cat Tarot. It's by Taylor Hultquist Todd. And it's an independent deck. It was on, I'm pretty sure that it was a Kickstarter. I'm pretty sure that I backed the Kickstarter. But like look at the strength card. It's so cute. I mean, like, I don't know. It's a really, really adorable deck, and I just love it. But yeah, I rarely read with it. And again, I think it's just because of the theme of it being like slightly too specific. So
I remember considering this deck as well,
Mhm.
and I think what stopped me because the images are great,
The
and
images
This is
cats
amazing. I don't think I've ever seen this deck before. It's
Look at
amazing.
so freaking cute. They did such a great job where they're in costume and like they're holding spears and stuff like, and yet it doesn't feel like overly anthropomorphic. You know what I mean? They still
Yeah, they're still cats. They're still very clearly cats.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think my thing was more the black and white sketch
Mhm.
quality, where I don't feel as my old eyes don't see enough contrast with all the details. So for me, I felt like this is going to be kind of a hard deck for me to look at, just parsing out the details, and so I think that's why I passed on this one.
Yeah. That part of it doesn't, I don't know. I guess it might be harder to see in person. It doesn't feel, and I have like terrible eyes too. In person, it doesn't feel hard for me to see or to make out details. Like
it doesn't on the camera either, at least to me. But
now it looks clear that. Well, and also like maybe I'm just more also of a color person. I think in general,
maybe,
I am
yeah.
color person. Yeah.
But like, look at the Two of Cups. It's so cute.
Adorable.
I actually really like that this deck is like black and white monochrome. Basically, I think it's just.
I mean, the sketch-like quality of it is like one of
really
its
lovely.
It really is.
Yeah. These cats nuzzling each other on the 4 of Wands. Like, it's so cute. Anyway, so yeah, this is. I love this deck, and I wish I reached for it more, and maybe I should do more readings about my cats just so that I can,
so you can use it. Yeah.
So
have you ever tried for shits and giggles to maybe like do a question that's unrelated to like, you know, outside what you think is the sphere of the topic? Yeah, you have. Oh, you have.
And it's fine. Like it reads, there's nothing wrong with how it reads, you know. It reads fine. It's more just like if I'm thinking about like, oh, I have this real question about like this job application I put in.
That's not the
point. I'm gonna go get my cat tarot for that. You know, like it's like it's just it doesn't like suggest itself to me in that way. You know? Like, so if that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's almost like you have to force yourself to use it in other scenarios. Yeah.
Exactly. Where it's like, oh, I really should reach for the cat tarot because I haven't used the cat tarot in a while. So I'm going to use the cat tarot to read for this non-cat related question. Like I don't know. It just feels weird. I don't know why.
I mean, it will do if you think about it like that.
It's silly because like I have the crystal unicorn tarot and I use that to read for stuff that's not unicorn related, obviously, and I don't have a problem with it. I don't know why it's specifically.
What you mean? You're not doing more unicorn readings, Sarah? Why not?
I have questions about my pet unicorns. Yeah, but it's. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. But like that's kind of the feeling I get whenever I think about reaching for it. Is that it's like, oh, that's not for this question, you know, like, which doesn't make any sense. But there you have it. So
no, I think it does make sense, especially like when you have a tarot collection where you have so many possibilities and things that just just again evoke a stronger feeling for you to grab that deck as opposed to say the cat tarot. I mean, cat tarot gets shafted.
And yet I have no desire to get rid of this because like I love it and it's my favorite cat tarot that I've ever seen. And so it's not going anywhere, you know, like so it's just going to hang out in my collection, but I'm just not going to reach for it very often, I think. So anyway, yeah.
Understood.
Julie's turn.
Yes. Okay. So this next deck, I don't remember the last time I used it. That is the Game of Thrones Tarot. This was a birthday gift, actually. And this was, I think, the very first edition that they had come out with. So I think since then there have been other editions where it's like not linen cards, like the card stock has changed, or I don't even know, like this, I don't know. Anyway, so this is the first edition, and it's, do I even have this in order? I have this in order. Yeah, I put it back in order. Because I think I might have been considering like rehoming it or something, just because I never picked it up. It's a great, like these backs, love it. It's perfect. It's a great deck, and actually Sarah has a wonderful walkthrough of this. I always give a shout out to because it's really a really wonderful walkthrough. Anyway, and I've only watched the show. I haven't read the books. I think overall they did a fantastic job with the illustration style I love. You can tell the author, who's the author? Is it Liz Dean?
Liz Dean. Mm-hmm.
She knows her Game of Thrones and she knows her tarot. It's very clear. I think that a lot of the characters are repetitive. And so, I mean, given just the series, and there were so many other characters and maybe storylines that they could have chosen for certain cards. And the ones that they did choose, albeit repetitive, still made sense and aligned very well overall with, with the card that they chose. I don't know. Again, it might be something where I have that thing about themed decks and it kind of limiting then the way I read. When I just get locked in on the story itself. I mean, that could be part of it. I think part of it at the time with the series finale, I was super salty. And I'm just like, I don't even want to look at this deck.
Marlena had the same. Yeah.
Don't even get me started. I still have very strong feelings. But yeah, I don't reach for it. I don't reach for it. Like even when House of the Dragon came out and I watched that first season the whole way through, I thought, oh, maybe that'll inspire me to pick this one back up. No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Whoops. I need a deck for TV show related
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. I do agree with this crazy bunny lady. Like I think that the Game of Thrones tarot is like unbelievably well done. Actually, it's an extremely well done fandom deck, and it's really good. So yeah.
So I don't reach for this one. I've decided I want to keep it, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I honestly couldn't let this one go. But I did read with it a lot, and even though I haven't reached for it in a while, the amount that I did read with it, and I know that it's a great reader, and I just, I don't know. I still love that deck, even though I am also extremely salty about the show's finale. I had such a good ride with that show, aside from the final season, and I loved that show so much. And the deck, I don't know, the deck is still just means a lot to me, and I can't imagine ever letting go of it. So
and so that's why ultimately, because I was just like, I mean, I knew that people were specifically looking for the linen cardstock. Like, well, I'm just not using it, and somebody else can enjoy it. But I think I'm going to keep it, and I'm glad to have it. I wish I would use it more. Like I wish there would be situations that came up where I feel like I would want to reach for this deck, but that just doesn't happen. But it is by far, I would say, probably the best, maybe one of the only fandom decks other than, I mean, barring that one. Yeah. I was just so well executed, so, that show, man. Oh my God. That freaking series finale.
Yeah. Still mad.
Still super pissed.
Never over it.
Fine. Yeah.
All right. Well, so we've done our whole rounds here. Should we do one more round of decks, or should we call it a day? We've been on for about an hour and 15.
How many have we done? How many rounds?
4?
3.
3?
3. I'm fine with whatever you want to do. I am totally fine.
Oh, don't go.
Yeah, we do one more then.
Let's do one more. Let's do one more round. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we're back to me then. Cool. So my last one then is the movie tarot, which my friend actually bought me this deck because I am a bit of a movie buff. I love my films a lot. I like to talk about films for almost as long as they last. So, but I was not aware when I got this deck, or when she was not aware when she purchased this deck for me, that it is a pip deck, and that is probably the only reason why I don't reach for this more. I don't know how good the lighting is in here now, but most like the majors are all movie stars. Great, love it. All clips from films. I've seen most of them. I really, really enjoy it. I have a lot of movie related issues, Marlena, but there's not enough time. And all the court cards are scenes from films, and the pips are fine. Like, they're fine as pip decks go. It's there's nothing wrong with it. It's not. The guidebook's good. Well, the guidebook does this thing that does irritate me a little bit. So in the majors, all of the majors are a scene from a film, and in the majors they tell you who it is, what the film is, and why they've chosen that particular card. In the court cards, they don't give you any of that information. They don't even tell you what the scene is. So, like, this is obviously Wesley from Princess Bride. I know that because I've seen that film so many times. But there would be no way for you to know that if you hadn't seen the film, because they just don't give you any information about the court cards at all, which feels like such a strange choice. If you're gonna stick to a theme here. So it's really weird. But I like the cardstock's fine. The cardstock's a bit cardy, but it's fine. Is there one I don't know? I don't actually think that there is.
But it does make the guidebook annoying. Let's face it.
This one. Who is this?
Oh, I don't know that one.
Well, can you hold it up a little closer? Like the face?
I have no idea.
This is the Ace of Coins.
Huh.
There's
I don't know who this is. There's nothing happening in this card that gives me a clue as to what the film is.
Yeah.
I don't recognize the actor. I don't.
I was going to say, is it Gordon Gekko in Wall Street? Like, it doesn't look like Michael Douglas, though.
No, it doesn't look like Michael Douglas to me.
So but the outfit is very Wall Street. Like, that is what the outfit suggests. So
I mean, I've not seen Wall Street, so I'm not.
I haven't, or maybe I haven't. Just wouldn't have remembered if I watched.
Or if I have, I was young.
Yeah,
much younger when I saw it. I don't remember it, but like some of them are fairly obvious. But also, it tells you in the guidebook what that one is anyway, because it's the Chariot. But this is fun. Let me see if there's another one. This one I think is pretty obvious, but again, I could actually be wrong.
Katniss.
Yeah, right. That's who I think it is.
Oh yeah, that looks like the poster for.
But it's not from Hunger Games, though, is it? It must be. It's from one of the other.
Yeah, I think that's the Mockingjay poster. Where she's all dressed in red, and it looks like the poster for the movie. So yeah,
cool.
Yeah,
this one I know, but I've not seen the film. That's Shakespeare in Love, right?
Yes, that seems to be. Yeah, Joseph Fiennes,
which makes sense.
Yeah.
So it is fun for that.
It is
fun. And have like a competition to see.
I guess, yeah.
See if you can guess which. So this one threw me, right? This one threw me because I had a bit of a stupid moment. Because this is obviously Tom Cruise in Minority Report.
Except why does he have a sword?
Because he's the King of Swords.
Yeah,
but that's exactly that's exactly what I did as well. I was like, but there is no sword in that film. Why does he have a sword?
Yeah.
But they're giving him a sword because he's the King of Swords.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was exactly what I did with this card. I was like, oh, it's Tom Cruise in Minority Report. Wait
a second.
Tom Cruise didn't have a sword in Minority Report.
It also looks very Mission Impossible. I would make an argument that could also be. I mean, it makes more sense. Minority Report, just give it.
It's got I say Minority Report because his fingers are obviously touching.
Oh, I didn't see that. I'm sorry.
It's harder to see if it's not close up. He's actually doing the whole thing with the. Which I don't think he does in Mission Impossible.
No, he doesn't.
That's definitely a Minority Report thing. But I mean, he doesn't have a sword in either of those films.
Right. Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah. See, Marlena. Yes, exactly. But the blue line grid thing wasn't.
It's not clear unless I hold it like right up. But yeah.
the outfit does look a little bit Ethan Hunt. I get it. But
yeah, but you could totally make an argument as well that it is Mission Impossible, which again it would be a lot easier to answer if they just told you in the text.
This is what's intended, yeah.
And then you wouldn't have to guess. But it's so strange. Like they do a really, really good job with the majors, and then the minors, the King of Swords just says businessman, judge, lawyer, doctor, advisor. And it's literally just a list of keywords and doesn't give you anything else.
Yeah.
So it was a very strange choice.
That's really half-assed.
Yeah. So that kind of bugs me a little bit about this deck. But mainly, as I say, I just don't reach for pip decks in general. Sorry, Julie, were you trying to see what film that was?
Yeah, is that Slumdog
Millionaire? Yeah.
Okay.
It's what? It's Slumdog Millionaire, is it?
Yeah, it's Slumdog Millionaire.
Yeah, I've not seen that film either, but again, it's one of those ones. Some of them, even when you haven't seen the film, like it's just so
recognizable,
iconic,
that
it's really recognizable. But it was Labyrinth. But I'm not. I don't want to let this one go because I actually really like the majors, but I just don't.
Yeah.
And again, it's not even this deck in general. It's just pip decks in general. Whenever I think of a deck I'm going to read with this deck, pip decks are always right at the bottom of my choices, and I just don't reach for them enough. But I would like to read more with pip decks and start doing that more. So that's one of the reasons why I keep it, is because I think if I start reading with pip decks, this is a deck that I'll really enjoy just because it sits within my interests. But look, she doesn't have a sword in Basic Instinct either, but she has a sword.
That's weird to me. I mean,
this is weird. Yeah.
I get why. I don't think it was necessary.
Yeah.
No.
You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Yeah, I think you could have used exactly the same, especially if you're going to name the cards anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
We know it's the Queen of Swords. We don't actually need you to stick a sword in it to make the point.
Yeah.
That's weird. That's weird. Yeah.
So yeah, so that is, I could show you more, but I could literally show you them all. Who is this? Well, actually, no, I can check this one because this is.
Is that Cleopatra?
Yeah, Liz Taylor and Cleopatra.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any more that Marlena can guess for me. So yeah, so that is pretty much me.
Awesome.
All right. Cool.
And Sarah, right?
Yeah, I think I'm next. I've been trying to decide which one I should do next, but I think I'm going to do this one because this is one of those decks where it's like, it feels like it's like waiting for its time, you know, and that is the Dark Goddess Tarot. And I have the indie edition of the Dark Goddess Tarot, and I've had it for years. And I've read the guidebook because I actually bought the mass market edition just so I could have a paper copy of the guidebook. And then I rehomed the cards because I had my indie edition. So this is one of those decks where it's like, I feel like I'm going to use it someday, and it just hasn't happened yet. So it hangs out on my shelf, not really being reached for, but I think the artwork is amazing, and I think the entire concept of this deck is amazing, and it's one of those decks where I want to get to know it well enough to use it and to like have it really be part of my practice, but haven't gotten there yet. But I still hold out hope that I will get there someday. So one of these days, it will finally be time for me to do my in-depth work study with the Dark Goddess Tarot, but we just haven't gotten there yet. But genuinely, this deck is so cool, and I love the art style. I love everything about it. So yeah, I'm assuming we'll get there someday. But in the meantime, it just hangs out. So. Not else much to say about it other than this is truly an aspirational deck that you know, where someday I'll be the kind of person who uses this deck. Just haven't gotten there yet. So anyway, so
I can see that being like a study deck for sure.
It it's so beautiful. I mean, the art style of it is incredible. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that's the Dark Goddess Tarot.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're on to me.
Well, yes, aspirational decks. That should be a tag.
Yeah,
I remember that there was a point at which people were doing a tag. There was like decks that intimidate me, which is sort of kind of what I think of as being an aspirational deck. That a deck that you find you're going to have to put in some study in order to use it, so you find it intimidating, but you want to be the kind of person who puts in that kind of study.
So it's so time consuming too. I mean, you really have to be in the headspace, and you have to have the time for it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, it's not something where you just whip that out like on a weekend and you're done with your study. I mean, it's going to take a lot of time.
Exactly.
To do justice.
Yeah. And it's, it feels like there's always a different project that sort of takes precedence where I'm like, oh, I'm going to do the Hollow Quest. Oh, I'm going to do a deck and walk. Oh, I'm going to, go through the Hellenic Oracle. Oh, I'm going to, it's like there's always another project. And then this one always just falls by the wayside. And it, despite the fact that like literally I've had this deck for, I don't even know, 5 or 6 years, probably. Like I've had it forever. But yeah, at one of these days, I don't know, we'll get to it. So.
Well, you will. Okay, so I guess the one I will do, I will do this one. This is, speaking of cat decks, the Black Cat Tarot.
This one is just freaking weird. Like, let's be real. This one is weird. Like, this one is weird in the exact same way that this one manages to not be weird.
I don't even know if I want to sit through images of this one, Julie.
Sorry, I'll keep it quick then. I'll keep it quick. I know I've shown this before, but like it's because, okay, so this was a gift from Matt. I think it was like either an anniversary gift or a Valentine's gift. I think, and so, that's very sweet. He went out on his own, and like this wasn't on a wish list, clearly, because I wouldn't have gotten it myself. But like, so he went ahead and he's like, oh, cats. Julie likes black cats. She likes cats. And this looks pretty and colorful. His, of course, him not knowing that I really don't like cats or animals that are anthropomorphized to this degree. And not only that, but they're just like, their proportions are just a little, they're like...
They look like the people who were made to look like cats in the movie Cats.
Yes.
Like it's like that uncanny valley level of anthropomorphizing cats where it's like they're still furry and everything, but they are people shaped. Like it's just
and like
so
this kind of humanoid, like and like, but like say, okay, this card, Ten of Swords. I love this rendition of Ten of Swords. I think there's a lot going for this deck. Because I've read with this deck before and actually reads well, and I've done spreads with it. It reads well, and I think the imagery is really interesting. Like for instance, something like this with the Strength card. Or is this the Strength card? No, it's not the Strength. It's the Seven of Wands. Like this lion with this weird mask thing on. It's. It's visually interesting. Just, like look at them. They look like mutants. They look like mutant cats, I think. Yeah.
That's exactly what I was just thinking while I was like, it's weird, but it's not the kind of weird I appreciate. It's like it's just weird.
Kind of weird that makes me a little bit
weirded out.
Yeah, like wigs me out. It just wigs me out.
Yeah, but I mean, like illustration wise, it's okay. Cats aside, like it's it's bright and pretty. And so I feel like I want to give it some love and attention. When it comes to cat decks, though, it's again that thing we've been talking about. Like I have other decks to choose from, and they always come to the forefront. Like if I want a cat deck, it's going to be like Soul Cats, or it's going to be, Page of Cats Tarot. Like it's going to be any number of other cat or animal themed decks that I have that don't anthropomorphize cats like this.
If this was exactly the same artwork, but they just replaced the cats with people, it would be a really nice deck.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I don't know. And I just the blue tones are very pretty. So, and it's just not a deck I can foresee myself letting go just because it was a gift, and it was I felt really bad because he gave it to me, and I remember flipping through the deck and being I just had a visceral reaction, and I don't hide my facial expressions as well as I could. I just have a real problem with that. And so he's like, "You don't like it?" I'm like, no, it's not it at all.
It's great.
Great. No. I'm like, I don't know what I said. I was like, no, I'm just thinking. I'm just thinking. So yeah.
That's hilarious. Oh my God.
If anything, I've said before, this is a great Halloween deck, because if you want a spooky deck, if you want a deck to weird you out and get you in a spooky mood, this would be it. So if I'm ever to bring out this deck, I feel like it would be for Halloween time. But I don't reach for it.
For those of us who see Cats the Musical as an actual horror movie, this is a perfect Halloween deck.
I've not seen that film at all. And I don't intend to. I love Cats. I've seen it live in London and everything, and I have no intention of ever watching that film.
I hate watched it, and it's no.
So wrong. It's just wrong.
Everything about it was wrong. From the point of everybody talking about how there was once a cut of the film where they all had cat buttholes. Everything about it was just wrong.
Wow.
And Release the Butthole cut was trending on Twitter. Oh man, yeah, no.
It's 2 hours of your life you can't get back.
Yeah, no, it truly was. So yeah, it's quite remarkable how terrible that was. So
anyway, it's for now, this stays. I mean, I think it will probably always stay, just because
just because you love your husband and you don't want to hurt his feelings.
It really was thoughtful. It was very thoughtful.
I mean, he tried so hard.
He did.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, cats, of course, black cat, of course.
Everything about it should have been perfect for you. How was he to know that it was full of weird, uncanny valley humanoid cats that?
Exactly. Because I know where he got this too. It's at our local witchy store, and so it's not like they have samples of where you can flip through. He saw this. That's what he saw,
and thought Black Cat Tarot. Julie will like
Black Cat Tarot. I mean, oh God, even this guy with the freaking pipe and shit. If he, again, if he knew, but he didn't, and he wouldn't. No one would unless you're immersed in tarot and immersed in, having a collection of decks where you have particular delights and particular deterrents.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to know what gives people the ick, specifically when it comes to a tarot deck? It's a very personal thing.
It is. So I love it for what it represents. And that's, it can just be that, and that is fine.
That's fair.
All right. Well, so are we? I think we're done.
I think we're done.
Yeah.
All right.
I actually have no idea when we're back, because we didn't decide that before we went live.
That's right, we did.
And I also don't know whose channel we're on, because I can't remember.
We're on Sarah's channel.
We're on Sarah's channel.
On my channel. Yeah. So
early June, we'll be on Sarah's channel.
But more importantly, we will be doing a live in May for our book clubbing.
Nettle and Bone. Yes.
Yeah. What day was that again?
We haven't decided where yet, but we have decided when. So that is the very last Saturday in May.
Yes.
Julie's like, have we?
Yes. Yes.
No, we did decide. It's on the
No, we did. No, I was.
Yeah, but I don't think
it's
we've
on
figured out
Saturday,
the
May 25th.
specifics of where it's going to be, but it will be same time as normal. And that will be fun. I think it probably goes without saying, but we'll put it in the thing and we'll say it now and we'll say it again before we start. But it is going to be a spoiler discussion. There is no way we're going to be able to have a good discussion about the book without basically spoiling it. So if you want to join in, and I would recommend reading it. That gives you like 4 weeks to read it, 3 weeks to read it. Or if spoilers aren't your thing, then it's probably best that you give it a miss. But we would love to have you there. So,
and the book again is Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher, and it's wonderful. So I recommend it.
It's quite short as well. It's just over a couple of 100 pages long, so it's a quick, easy read as well.
So I highly recommend it.
Thank you, Marlene. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
Thank you. You're messy. Yes. All right,
folks. Well,
cool. I don't know how to do basically anything on StreamYard. In case anybody has noticed, I do nothing, even when it's on my channel.
There it is. Look. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.